Okay. You know what I think is interesting? The fact that Russia is virtually all white, and to hear that there wasn't much racism directed at black people on a much larger scale. So, but you did say that you've heard of incidents that happened to other people in other locations or cities outside where you were. So, do you want to pick up on that? I'm sure there's something else that you may have experienced in Russia in as far as racism, or you may have heard of.
Okay, I remember two things. What was it? Where a student was dismissed from the university because of their skin color. I heard it from the student's point of view, but I didn't get the whole story because you also want to know that was this person studying, was this person
a black person? You mean?
Yes, a black person. Yes, a black person.
Wow.
But I don't really know how true that story is. But at the same time, I wasn't at that university. I didn't know. Yeah, I just can't say I could say she's lying or he was lying. I don't know. But I know that some of them would get dismissed because of the skin color.
Not because of performance issues.
That's the thing. There's also that, because some people can hide behind the word racism because they didn't study. So it's just more of hearing from both sides. What else? Oh, I'm also going to tell you something. What is it? Rated R. Some girl dated some guy, and then they shared photos. No, he shared photos with her. You know, this generation, yes. And then he didn't know that she was underage, I think. Because those people, they look grown. They look grown. So what did she do? She blackmailed him because he wanted to leave her. And then he ended up going to jail because he did leave the girl. So it was
a black guy or
a black guy with a white girl. Yes.
Wow.
So because the black guy didn't want her, she pulled the racist card. Yeah. Then she involved like her brothers, her family into the whole thing, and then he went to prison. Now the thing is with Russia, if you have to serve your prison time, you will serve your prison time. Like you can finish school, but after school you will serve that.
What?
Yeah. It's like just choose what battle you want to go through right now. But I remember there was that situation, and then the girl pulled that racist card, and then he ended up going to jail. And I think now he can continue with his studies. Yeah, like I said, it was.
Does he still want to stay after that?
I don't know. I didn't know the guy, but I just heard. You know, like when you hear that, oh, someone is going to jail, and then when you find out why, you're like, oh my god, maybe Mjolo is not for me here because I do not want to go through what these people are going through. Yeah, so that's something I remember.
Okay.
On my end, I actually, I don't know whether to say witnessed, because this sort of happened next door. Like I said at first, I was the only black person, but I wasn't the only foreigner. So you have other foreigners, but maybe from neighboring countries in Russia. And I've witnessed more than one occasion of racism towards these other nationalities. So it was a fight. It was a fight that woke me up at, I think it was 2 a.m. in the morning. I could hear tables.
Yeah.
So I woke up confused, wondering tables, what's going on? I'm in my room, I'm sleeping. And then I could hear the voices that, oh, this is a fight. So I opened the door, and then, I opened my door, and one of the guys rushed in front of me to the bathroom because his nose was bleeding. It was a whole mess. Yeah, and then later on, I realized, this guy is always beaten up. It's not just a fight. That's, he's not liked because he's the only guy who's from that neighboring country, and the rest of the guys in the room with him are Russian.
What was he? A neighboring country? Was he like a refugee, or was he there for school?
He was there for school just like everyone, just like me.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So
What country was that?
it was Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some racism or some strife. I don't know the whole story, but it goes back down like history. Because when you said that, I remembered I was in a Uber. The driver, I think he was from one of those countries, and then kids just run. So the kid didn't see that it was a red light. Then she like ran, but then the cab had to go. So kids, honestly, and if you're from that neighboring country, you can't really say no, your kid was wrong. But at the same time, you're the driver, and then the father. I think he opened the door and beat that driver. Yeah.
Did he knock down the child?
No. He did it out of panic. I think he beat that driver because he was scared that the daughter would have lost her life, or not lost her life, would have been injured. Because he drove slowly, but it was just like when you just stop the car like that, and then you're like, oh my god, if this kid ran something.
So do they look different from Russians?
When you live there, you can see the difference.
Okay.
When you're new, you can't really tell them apart. Yeah. Okay. So he beat the driver. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm a foreigner.
You're a female.
Yeah, I'm a female, and I think there was a point when he put his foot in through the window. I don't remember because I was.
Yeah, that's very scary.
I was scared because
that's very scary.
First of all, it's a human being, and two, your daughter was wrong.
Daughter
was wrong.
Yeah, she wasn't looking.
Yeah, she wasn't looking, and you as the parent, why didn't you hold your daughter? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was also very scary. So I don't know if that was also racism, or that was because he was scared, but didn't see it as, you're not one of us, so I'm gonna beat you. Yeah.
So one would expect that a country like Russia, like I said, that has just predominantly white people, they would be adverse to having, Africans, especially because Black people are despised almost everywhere they go. You know what I'm saying? And anyway, now I just want to bring this little issue to the fore: the fact that we are trying so hard to make sure that we unite Africans wherever they are, wherever they live, wherever they are from. It doesn't matter whether you call it the diaspora, whether it is us who remained in Africa. And, I'm just thinking that this war with Russia and Ukraine, I'm just wondering, I want to throw it to you guys, as you guys are much younger than I am, and you may have a different perspective. So I just want to hear what your views are on the happenings in the world. The fact that Africans seem to be leaning towards the Russia and China alliance and the new, global politics. Yeah. Do you guys see that happening at all? Do you see African countries looking like they could be supporting China and Russia? And do you think that may cause problems for our unity prospects with African Americans, for instance, because they are in America, they understand American values and all these other things that make the West what it is, versus Africans who seem to be getting cozy and closer to Russia, because Africans will always say, no, we like Russia because Russia supported us through our liberation struggle from the Europeans. So what do you guys think of that?
Oh, okay, that's a very hot topic.
Yeah.
But yes, I am seeing that happening. But we all know what's going on with the West, and the relations that have been going on between Africa and the West. But I am seeing how the Africans are trying to rise up and stand on their own, and maybe possibly support like China and Russia because of these international relations and all. But I am seeing how, from what I'm reading, I'm seeing how they're leaning towards that, supporting Russia and China. I'm seeing how it's like they're trying to defend them, that, they haven't had slaves. They were always there during the wars and all. But it's a very tricky thing because you can't really predict the future. But I'm seeing how it seems like they're trying to lean towards that. Yeah.
Yeah, Junior, do you think that's going to get in the way of Africans and African Americans, uniting?
My generation especially, I think they are attracted to America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think maybe it would come with them understanding what's actually going on in the world for them to make the proper decisions or to lean to a certain side. Yeah, because most of the people I know, including myself, even before we went to school, we didn't know much about Russia. We didn't know about the liberation that they helped with back in the days. But we knew Hollywood, we knew Will Smith, and we knew Usher, and we knew all the Black Americans. So I don't think it would be a problem for us African Americans and Africans to unite in that sense.
Yeah.
So as young people, because you guys relate differently from us a little bit, I think, how do you think we should tackle this unity issue? Because do you see the importance for us uniting as Black people and fighting racism on a global scale together? And if you do, what are some of the things that you think we may need to do? Because the people who are the leaders are usually like your grandparents, for instance.
Yeah.
They're at that age and they may not know what's happening on the ground now with you. Who are the future leaders? What are some of the things that you think could help in trying to fight racism and promote unity among Black people wherever they are?
Okay. For example, you can't erase your past. You need to know what happened in your past. You need to make peace with that, make alliances. For example, there are always tribal conflicts, wars, and all. Just making peace with all of that so that we can be one. Because we can't say that, us as Africans are going to unite and do 1, 2, 3, but we haven't made peace with ourselves. It's, like racism. There is racism within our own race. Yes, so it's more of making peace with different tribal wars, conflicts that have happened in the past, and trying to unite together. And knowing that, yes, we did go through certain things, but we have to be together in order to, go further. Yeah, so I just feel and believe that if we do make peace with that, living in harmony, because there is tension. You grew up hating or despising a certain tribe or a culture, but not knowing why. Or someone saying remarks about a certain culture or tribe, not knowing the reason, or you come from that. Maybe your parents are half this, half that, but you can still feel that tension. So I believe that if people were to make peace with that, it could help. It could really help in future things.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually agree with that too. That we need to not just go off of the hatred that you probably heard maybe your grandfather say, "Oh, people from this area are like this," and then you ride on that and you continue that way. We won't make peace that way. I think the best way is to understand what happened. Yes, read about the history, whatever conflicts happened, but also get to know those people as they are, get exposed. Just like us when we traveled outside, we got to see people from out there as they are, without the thing,
the filters.
This nation is like this, without you actually having seen them. So
And how in the movies they always portray Russians like the bad guys.
Yes. I avoided watching movies with Russians because I didn't want to go with that mentality that they're bad, they're racist. I just told myself that, what, I got this scholarship, let me stop listening to people that are saying negative things about Russia, because I don't want to end up like that, like them. Because every time they would say something, it's like I would have hate.
Mm.
But I'm like, why am I?
Mm.
Why do I even think I would be part of that group or that society? It doesn't make sense. Then when I went there, I saw it from a whole different angle. Yeah.
So don't you guys fear that maybe when Africa gets closer to the East, or China, the China and Russian alliance with the Arabs and everybody, don't you think that we run the risk of being recolonized by a different group this time around?
I get it. I've never thought of it in that way. I haven't thought of it in that way. I was just thinking about the negative implications from the West.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that, what if we run with, China, Russia? What would be the negative implications? But from that, there's a possibility. But I'm just trying to see it and think positive. But however, there's that risk as well. So I feel like if we are not strong individuals or Africans, then it could happen again.
Yeah.
So if you don't know yourself, if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't know that you're an African and you're strong, because this is something that one of the presidents said in one of those countries. He said, we have a lot of resources, so if we don't stand up for ourselves, then we're going to repeat history all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually quite true, because if we say, oh, this person is going to come and do this, it's never really us who go to China and colonize. Why not? Why are we different? Is there something that we think of ourselves as Africans that makes us not able to do that? Why are we afraid of them coming to us? That's another thing that always goes on in my mind. And maybe people who are not well versed with like ethnic groups and maybe history and stuff like that, who don't watch the news very often, they might not see those things, right? And if they don't see those things, I think those are the people who can ask those questions for, okay, why are these people more powerful? Why are we dependent on people to do things for us in our country? What's stopping us from doing? And from there we can now have the mindset of, let's do it ourselves and power through with that.
Because we've made countries rich. Why are we still?
Yeah, one of the things that one thing that is almost like a caveat is the fact that African countries have the resources, right? But you guys went to Russia, you learned mechanical engineering, you're an aircraft engineer, okay? But you cannot, there's nowhere in Africa, for instance, where you can practice aircraft engineering to the level that you could if you were in a Western country, or if you were in the East or in Russia or wherever else. You understand? Not because we do not have resources. The thing is, the world is so interconnected that you need to use American systems through, whether it's through the World Bank or whatever monetary systems that they've put in place. You cannot come up with your own aircraft as an African, suppose
getting a license, or
you understand, and you need to get your license from them. You need to use the whatever systems that they use to access the aerospace and this and that. You understand? So there's nothing that Africa can. I mean, not that there's nothing that Africa can do, but there's very little at this point, because the West has all these systems set in place almost so perfectly, but to benefit the West and the West only.
I get you.
You understand? So I don't know how Africa can ever get out of this quagmire, because we are in a jam. We do have the resources, but fine. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, when they were digging for gold and diamonds in South Africa or in Botswana, we didn't know the value of it.
We didn't.
You understand?
Exactly.
Now we are the wiser, but guess what? We are unable to access markets. They make all sorts of, restrictions for African products and services to reach their markets. And, it's like Africa is forever like a dumping ground for their excess
Yeah.
goods,
Yeah.
and at the same time, if things change, if Russia and China become the dominant powers, there's nothing that China cannot produce in the world. So what is an African going to do? Any African country or even Africa as a whole, what can they produce that China already doesn't have?
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you think there's going to be an opportunity for Africa, economic base to grow?
I think it goes back to what you were saying.
Yeah.
You're talking about value.
Mm.
If you don't know your value,
Mm.
honestly speaking, it will take some time. But for example, here, you know how we say a lot of negative things about our own country, like, oh, we can't do this. Oh, that's not possible. Those type of remarks. So it comes down to our mentality, our mindset. If we don't see that value in ourselves, in our nation, in our country and continent, then we're still going to depend on other countries, because these presidents from outside, they keep saying that we are rich, we have all these things, all the raw material goes to them, then we end up buying it from them. So it's just more of, if we don't see the value, the skills in ourselves, yes, it's going to take long. It's going to take long.
Yeah, the West has been doing it for 300 years, which means we are 300 years behind.
But there's nothing that can stop us from maybe changing that. But just if you don't see that value, if you don't believe that you are that change maker, then that's where the problem is. If you're going to depend on going outside of the continent to utilize or use your skill, then we can see where that problem is. But I understand they have been doing it for quite some time, and we have been depending on them. They're basically the largest manufacturers, so I just believe that it comes down to seeing that can you see that value in yourself, can you see that you are capable of doing the same things that you're doing outside.
And here's another thing that I just want to throw to you guys, because you are young, bright Botswana African people, and I'm just trying to see how, what your worldview is like. We have a lot of, the West tells African countries that the reason why you're poor is because you're not going out there looking for investors. You need foreign direct investment. Okay, so we go out there to lure all these investors to come back into Botswana. And I think you've seen in the past few years, there's been a sudden surge in investors, or foreigners from other continents once again, and they come here. It's easy for them to access land and whatever to set up, because we want businesses, right? And we know what's happening in Botswana. There are even certain groups or races that we know, or nationalities that we know, are the majority business owners. And what do those people do? I don't even need to say it. You tell me, how do they treat the workers? How do they pay them? Do you see them integrating in our society, trying to be nice, or learning anything about us, trying to be, it's like they've just come here to grab the profit, because even the way that deals are set up is for them to be able to expatriate their profits with no issues. You understand? So I always think that when I see those people, the way they treat their workers, how they pay them almost slave wages. I feel like it's racism repackaged.
Yes.
It's just that this time
comes in different
this time they're not coming with guns. So
see.
what do you guys make of that, and what do you think we should do as Botswana to address that issue?
I think
But do you see it, first of all?
I do see it. Actually, it's so much, but we've sort of made it the status quo. But there are these places that, this is owned by Smamba, this is also owned by Smamba, but it's normal. And we probably just joke about it and make light of it. But I think one of the important things for people like us is to understand what is really happening, like why it's set up in that way, right? And then make those conclusions, well, maybe not conclusions, but have that understanding of, okay, this is happening because of 1, 2, 3. right? Without getting too political.
Mm.
And then, if at all it is something that is negative, let's start thinking of how we can change that, right? I for one think that if I had listened, I think it's taking us back to what we had said before. If I had listened to people saying this nationality is like this, I would have never cared to learn the language.
Yeah.
I would have never cared to know what an individual person from this culture is like. Personally, at high school level, some of the people in my class were the sons and daughters of the people who
Own everything.
Yeah. But I didn't know that, but I knew that person as that person. And they were a nice person to be around. And the fact that we both spoke English was fine. We didn't have a language barrier. We were friends. So the only thing that would separate us now is hearing that, Simamang's race came here to make money off of me. And if I had known that first, I don't think I would have tried to even get close to that person in school. So it takes us back to that. Okay, let's not let them also the other way around. Let's not look at them and see them as that, and let them also not look at us and see them as and see us as okay. We're gonna come here, make money, go. You know what I mean? Build relationships. We can work together. There's nothing wrong with working together, but I don't think that's happening.
I was going to ask if you see it happening anywhere. Yeah. So do you guys see, I'm sure that by saying what I've just said, the last two comments that I made show you that there are other ways that racism can sneak in. And there's a completely black country. Every face that you see on the street, you have to do a double take when you see a light-skinned person. You understand? We are in charge in some ways, but not economically. You know what I'm saying? So whenever people come into your country and they seem to be making more money than you are, it causes resentment.
Yeah, it does.
You understand? Even if they're making the money legitimately, whether you are sleeping on opportunities, you're not taking them up yourself, or your government is corrupt, allowing foreigners to come and profit off of you. These are some of the sentiments that are there in our country. I get. So I'm just wondering how do you guys suggest that we move forward as a country? I mean, there's what we call political will that we know about. And there are things like, this looks like a very inconsequential conversation that I'm having with you guys. You understand? But it is not. You know that it is not, because this is what we should be talking about as citizens of this country.
Yeah, because that's what they talk about.
You understand?
That's what they talk about during their meetings. This is what they talk about.
You understand? So are we that meek as Africans? Do you think we can allow ourselves to be enslaved or even recolonized again? Do you see it happening at all?
It is happening. It's just that it's happening in a different way. But I believe that if we stop looking down on each other, let's say we're doing the same thing, why would I hide opportunities from you, but knowing that we could complement one another? For example, okay, he's an engineer. Let's say you're an engineer. You want to do something, you know that maybe your skills, if you're strong in one thing and then he's strong in one thing, why not use that instead of saying, you're good at this thing, let me find someone else. But you know that if he had used you, then the process would have been a lot faster. So I also think that it also starts with us. Like, why are we looking down upon each other, and then we prefer other people or other races? So it just starts with us. Yeah, why are we hiding certain opportunities? Why do we start businesses?
Why do you think that is?
Maybe it goes down to history. I actually am on that path, like, why? Where did this thinking come from? Where did this whole being meek and silent and quiet, where does it come from? So I thought maybe from the name, Botswana. I don't know. Not to sound political. I don't know. But I'm also on that quest to find out, like, where did it start? Why are we like that? Why do we think it's okay to dim our light? So I feel like it's something, maybe a cultural thing. I don't know.
Do you think the fact that we are not industrialized and we don't really have a history of being capitalist in
I
our
think-
worldview. You know what I'm saying? Because we were pretty much very communal. Our culture is family, the neighborhood, ward. You know what I'm saying? We just work as communities. So it's difficult for one person to be able to stand out and be, you know how it is. Like if somebody's rich in your neighborhood, you don't like them.
Yes.
Because
there's
you
that.
want, because we're so used to being equal, everybody having
You
the
don't
same.
expect someone to-
Yeah, so when they do that, it makes you angry
Yeah.
because now you realize that you want it, but you didn't put in the work.
Yes.
You
That's
know?
why I believe it also starts with us.
Mm.
It definitely starts with us.
Mm.
Why envy what someone has or what they're doing when you know that if you did that inner work, you would be at that same level. Instead of you being envious, reach out to that person and ask, like, and you with that information, be open to share or giving advice. I don't understand why there's so much strife for it.
Do you guys think
Actually,
that? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I see that. I like the word you use, envy.
Mm.
It's like we don't know that we can.
Yeah.
Many people, especially in workplaces, it doesn't even have to be about businesses. You see someone who went to a certain school and you feel a certain type, maybe because their English is a little bit different, you feel a certain type of way, or they can give a presentation that you feel a certain type of way. But because you are both from the same country, what is it that you didn't learn that person that you can also learn?
That's a very good way of looking at it. Do you guys think that conversations around racism or this ethno-tribal warfare, do you think it's valid in 2023? Should we, as Botswana, as Africans, be talking about this? Should we be trying to reach out to the Zimbabwean brothers and sisters, or South Africans, or Namibians?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important?
Because there's no reason why in the sense of them needing help and us needing help, why shouldn't we help each other? It would be petty, I guess, to just be like, no, because certain years ago this happened to you, did this to us, and then. But if you can see beyond that, if there are definitely people who can see beyond. There are some people who don't even know that there was a war between certain countries.
Yeah.
So if those people can see beyond it, why can't we try and fix whatever needs to be fixed and then help each other, because that's what's more needed.
Yeah, no, I agree with what he said, because you grow up resenting a certain tribe, not knowing why, or maybe they resent you. Like, for example, with me, I say I'm mixed, as in like I'm from two different cultures, and you hear that, oh, your culture is like this, or that one is like that, and you don't understand, because you know that you guys, if you take that culture aside, if you put it aside, you realize that you guys can work together. But because they find out that you're from this tribe.
So are you guys saying that you guys are young? Are you telling me that something is still brewing in Botswana? With ethnic stuff.
Yes.
Is it still there?
Yeah,
I can feel it. I feel it sometimes.
It's maybe mild, but not too.
It's swept under the carpet more than anything. It's not like it's not happening.
I feel it, especially when I'm with the elders.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where we all get it from, right?
I know, the elders.
No, we need to change things. So you think we should have more conversations next time? Bring the elders also to talk about their prejudices.
That would be nice.
Yeah, we cannot be going on like this, guys. And it's been a fantastic day being with you here, hearing your point of view, both of you.